rear, right, and left. And all I'm doing is hitting enter because I clicked this button right, this check mark, and I said continuous add. So it's just adding. Every time I hit enter, it adds it for me. So we know we have damages to the front, rear, right, and left. And if you want to put them in a certain order, you know, however you want to do it. But we just want to make sure that it's under the exterior. The roof is the top, front, left, right, rear. We know that we have debris that we're going to have to get rid of. So we're going to go ahead and add that folder for debris removal. And that's just under the whole thing. So first we're going to start with our roof. We know based on our roof processing form that we're replacing that roof. When you're replacing the whole entire roof, the easiest way to do it, we're going to go to sketch. And it's a laminate. So we're going to go to RFG. Anything with the roof is RFG because that's the roofing category.
Okay.
So just so you guys know, I'm gonna go back. This is the category, this is the selector. So RFG 300 is laminate. If we were doing per shingle, it would be an E. If we were doing without felt, it would be an S. And that's just stuff you'll learn over time. But you can always type any of that in here and it'll bring it up for you. So if you type in laminate in the search bar, it's gonna bring up, you know, and you'll just find which one. Now that's also, it's not gonna bring up 3-tab because 3-tab isn't laminate. So that's why it's only showing us composition shingle laminate. So we know we're replacing the roof, so we're gonna go straight to it. We're gonna go to sketch, RFG 300. So we're gonna, when they do the tear off, they tear all that roof. They don't go, you know, and say, oh, let me tear this off and let me pay attention to the felts. When they're tearing it off and it's a full roof, they just go through and tear it off. So we're gonna do with the felt. I mean, well, I chose without, I think.
Maybe you have the grill vents and all that stuff too.
So that's what we're gonna go through. So we're gonna choose with felt. We're gonna drop it up on that roof. Hold on, because something's not right. Should already be combined. Cause I don't know why it's not giving me combined. See how combined is grayed out? That means that all these facets are already combined. I don't know. Okay, so we choose RFG 300 because this is a laminate roof, and we're gonna do with felt. We just drop it on here. Usually when you hover over a roof, it gives you the whole thing, but this is kind of, I don't know why it wants to do that. So we're gonna make sure that we put it on the whole thing. So we're gonna zoom in a little bit closer. And this hand is to grab it. So we're just grabbing it and kind of bringing it closer to us. So when you select this, you're basically loading your cursor with whatever. See how it says place? Okay, so see how the whole roof is green and it says place that?
Yes.
We're just gonna click it. And now it comes down here. So the reason we do it on the sketch is so we can always auto-calculate the waste. Remember on the inspection report, he tells us that this is a hip roof to get a 10% waste. We don't need to do the math and figure all that out. We dropped it on our sketch and it's gonna give it to us. So now, this is saying, based on what we just did, this is saying we're going to take the shingles off with the felt, and squares means the whole roof. And then we're going to put them back, but we're gonna change this to without felt. because we're gonna make felt its own line item. So we know we're in the roof, so it's automatically RFG. If we needed to search, we would just hit right there, hit tab, and it would bring it in and we could search felt. But we're gonna just type all the codes in because we know them. So we're putting the felt and it's the whole roof. Now remember, he said that ice and water shield was present. I mean, he said it's not present in the valleys. But didn't he tell us that it was present on the photos?
Yes, and it was something where somebody didn't see it, or you said you didn't see it.
Yeah, that was the starter kit. So that's the starter row. So the reason we do that, we include that. So this box right here is our auto waste. It's telling us that it auto calculated the waste, and it says it includes the Eve starter course. So if when they try to argue and say, oh, we need it as an individual line item, we already included it in our waste. So you see how the squares is 39.52 for the takeoff and 39.52, but the putback is 46.33. That's because it includes that waste. It includes that waste that's auto-calculated, and it includes this Eve starter course for the eaves, for them to start the shingles and where they actually put them. So the next thing we need to do on the roof is go through and put all our vents back. So these vents are damaged. So we are going to, remember I said when they tear all that stuff off, they're tearing off these turtle vents. So if they weren't damaged, so we're gonna do RFG, BNTT. He's saying that there are 9, 10, 11, 12, 17 turtle vents. That's 593. That's how we got the number. Oh yeah, it is a big group. That sounds about right. So it's automatically gonna come over as remove and replace. This and sign means remove and replace. We don't need to remove it because we did a tear off of everything, and we're just going to replace them. Anytime you replace an entire roof, the vents, metal turtle vents are replaced only when you're putting it back, because you removed everything. Now pipe jacks, if you notice, a pipe jack comes out of flashing. It has a flashing that's around the shingle, and then you see the pipe jack. So those don't get torn off. You know, the shingle is around that. So they tear that shingle off, and those are still there. So since these are damaged, we have one that's actually damaged. So we're gonna do RFG, FLP. We're gonna do one pipe jack, but it's not damaged. So we're not gonna remove and replace it. I mean, we're just gonna replace it because it's damaged.
Okay.
Now we have one that's not damaged. So that one's not gonna come up when it's doing that tear off. So we're gonna make its own separate line item, and it's gonna be the same thing. And it's just one, but it's gonna be removed. Because remember, it wasn't removed when they took all that off. And then we're gonna copy it and paste it, because it's showing where and it's telling us, are you sure you want to copy that same line? Because you already have it on there twice. And we're gonna say yes. But the reason is, this is to remove it, and then the second one is going to be install only. So basically, this is what we're replacing the roof. Let me go back to this because this is going to annoy me. Okay. So we have on here, so we have on our roof, we are removing all the shingles with the felt, we're putting the felt back, and then we're putting all the shingles back without the felt. You always need to see this one on a full roof replacement, because it's telling you that waste is auto-calculated at 17.2%. So long as you see that one, you need to have that note. That's why we drop it on the sketch, so it'll auto-calculate. We're replacing only on the vents, because when they go through a tear off, we don't need to remove it.
Where does it say that 17%?
So in the estimate, I'll show you at the end. It's gonna show right under this line item on the estimate.
Okay.
So on our front elevation, we're gonna put our gutters. He's saying that the gutters are 86.3. I'm sorry, that's the wrong code. So gutters are under, and I'm just moving a little fast, but I want you guys to get the concept of how we're, the overall. So the gutters are GUTA, and then we know this is gutters, so we're gonna take that downspout out because we don't want any confusion, because we have also downspouts that we're gonna put back on some of the elevations. So we know that this is just for gutters because they have the same line item, and then it's gonna be 86,3 linear feet. And then we hit okay and it brings it down for us. So that's how it calculates it. Now, debris removal is based on all of this, because the roof, we don't need any debris removal for that because it's the waste is auto calculated. It's included. They're including that waste. They're giving them money for that waste in there. So all this, the front, left, all of this is gonna go on our elevation items. We're not doing the single garage door because remember that wasn't hail or wind damage. But these downspouts and those gutters, we're putting them right here. So we need to include debris for that whole thing. So debris is always DMO and a pickup truck. So we don't put, when we put 0.75, that's not for a third of a pickup truck. Remember how Thomas told us that's for, this pickup truck is for 1,000 pounds of debris. So we don't have those gutters and downspouts probably aren't gonna be 1,000, they're probably gonna be around 500, 750. So that's why we're doing 0.75 based on the amount of debris removal they have. If they had less than that, then we would do, 0.25 or 0.50 depending on how much. That's how you determine. So it's probably gonna weigh about 750. So just in the interest of time, we're gonna say that we've entered all of this information in our estimate. We would go to documents, reports. We always hit apply all when we see this note, because they're telling that they're gonna add a verbiage on there telling them where they can get that shingle at. And we'll see that at the end too. So let's say we've entered all our information in, we would hit, I'm hitting next. We would hit finish. We're gonna go to estimate reports. We're gonna resequence our line numbers, always do that. And then we would hit upload. We're not gonna click it because we're not finished entering it. I just wanna show you guys so we would hit upload, and that's gonna take that right over here, and that's our third document that we would need. It would say final draft. It would look just like this. It would look like this. It would say final draft with or without removal depreciation. That would show right here when we hit upload. We're not gonna hit upload just in the interest of time, and I haven't finished entering the line items. So once we hit upload, we have 3. We would go back and go to tools, referral assignment, referral program, quality assist. And then we make sure we hit that, and then we hit send, because that's gonna send that to Exact Analysis. And then we will hit refresh, and we will have our 4, documents right here. So the last step, once you've written that estimate, is going to be your narrative. So you go back to your CPT, you pull up auth request for Crawford. This is always gonna be inside. Is there a contractor involved in the claim? That's gonna be per claim. If it's yes, then you'll hit yes, and then just, if you haven't talked to them and you just know it's a contractor, put no. If you emailed them when you email the insured on initial contact, hit yes. Whatever it is, no, we don't have a contractor right now. The work group you're requesting authority from every single time is gonna be CVE. If this claim comes back and needs corrections, it's gonna be second request. If this claim comes back and you have a supplement. So on second request, it's gonna always go back to the same person who reviewed it. So you always wanna make sure if you get corrections, you pull up your authority request from the CPT, but it's second request. This is our first request. So we know we're requesting authority on dwelling and other structures. Well, just on dwelling, so we're just requesting authority on dwelling, and it's based on hail damages, because we didn't have any wind damages that we viewed to the property. And then this is where we're gonna start putting our narrative. So this is already correct, because we put this part of our narrative in our coverage template. So insured's home was inspected on 5/25, and this would have been filled in earlier already. From when we went through and we were doing our coverage template. This is telling them what type of roof it is, what how big it is, and everything that we figured out when we evaluated. And just remember, you can always go right here if you forget, or if you hadn't written it down, or if you hadn't plugged this in. So this is a 30-year, which is laminate. That's why it's a 30-year. Laminate is either 30, 35, or 40. 30 years, the most common one we're gonna see though. 30-year laminate, that next gen, and it does not list the age. So earlier we would have put all this in here, but remember we put it directly in the coverage template. So when you do it, you'll just be copying and pasting. The overall condition is average and consistent with age of 15 to 23 years. Come on.
Did you mean to put does not list age?
Yes, because next gen, remember when we went in next gen to view under involved properties, it didn't tell us how old this roof was.
Well, you want to insert the word age?
So let's not be too technical right here, because I'm trying to get you guys back downstairs.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you can make your calls, but I'm sure, so 2000, that's why we don't know the age. But it's a little lag, so it didn't, because I typed age, does not list age. So overall condition is average and consistent with 15 to 23 years. 23-year old roof. So we know from Eagle View that the roof is 39.64 squares. And we're giving them this information because remember, we need to explain to them why we're gonna warrant a full roof replacement. So we wanna let them know how big it is and how those damages are. So it's 39.64 squares with 24 facets. So the predominant pitch is gonna be 10, 12, and we also need to let them know, so on our estimate, anytime we're replacing the entire roof, anytime we're replacing the entire roof, we have to include if it's 2-story or if it is actually the pitch. They get more labor for that.
If it's both, you pay for both, correct?
Yep. So this isn't we're gonna go look at our picture. This is a 2-story house, the whole thing, except for, everything. Everything is 2-story, except for that little dormer right there, that extended. So all of this is 2-story. And then we know from our Eagle View also which slopes are 10, 5, all of these get charges. So we're gonna go back to our sketch, and high is for 2-story. Well, let's do steep first. So see how it says steep charges are based on 7 to 9 or 10 to 12. So all of ours are 10 to 12. So we're gonna pick up 10 to 12, and we're gonna drop it based on, now we know this one right here doesn't get anything because it's only a 5. So we're gonna start right there, and you guys see how I'm using that and then dropping it over there based on that. So right now we're dropping that steep charge on all those slopes that are 10 to 12 pitch. So this is 10 to 12, this one's 12, this one's 10, this one's 12, and all I'm doing is looking over here and referring back. This is 10. So keep in mind, when you're doing this, when we're doing it by facet, I'm hovering over this small thing right here, the one that says facet. If I hover over this, it's gonna give me this whole thing. If I hover over this, it's gonna give me this whole thing. If I hover over this, so to do each individual facet, you hover over that small the one that says F, basically. I know it's hard to see, but see how these say R? Those are for the whole thing. So this will give me this if I hover over R, but if I hover over F, it's gonna do it by facet. So that's why you wanna hover over the facet. Cause see this right here, if I do this, it's making both of them. But if I do this, it just went to that one. Or if I go, so this, I'm hovering over R, it's gonna give me that whole thing. But if I do this or this, it's giving me per facet. So that's how we're doing it. So we know this, so these are both 13, so we're just gonna drop it on the whole thing. Of course it didn't do it. So these we know are both 12. So we drop it. This is 10, this is 12, and then this one's 10.
Is it possible to have dropped it on all of them and then take away the one that wasn't?
Yes. But I just wanted to show you guys.
Oh, you're great.
You know,
Thank
so-
you.
And that we're dropping. So if we hovered over the whole roof and made it all, but the reason you should do it like this is because what if some of these were 7 or 9? They're still steep, but that's a different charge. So our charge is 10 to 12. So you can have a steep 7 to 9 or a steep 10 to 12. So that's why you want to just do it individually. Because
Okay.
what if some of these were, you know, so just to keep the confusion down on yourself, it's easier that way. So this little one back there, we know that that's 12. So we're gonna drop it on that.
Okay.
So this is 10, so we're dropping it there. So this is open because it's a 5, this is open because it's a 3, and this is open because it's a 3.
Wow.
So now back to our estimate items, it added it for us. It calculated it, it added it for us as we drop this. So also, if you don't have to refer to your Eagle View. If you didn't have your Eagle View up, this is telling you right here on the sketch it's telling you the slope. So you could go through just like that. F1 is 12, but the Eagle View is a little easier reference, you know, because you're looking like, where's F1? And you gotta, but you could use this. You know, you could use this chart to do it as well. So this chart is telling us F1 is 12, 10, 10, 10, you know, and so on. But Eagle View just makes it easier because it's bigger and you can kind of just drop it as you see it. So now we're gonna go back and make sure we get the 2 stories. So this is our house. So all of this is 2-story on our east side, and then we know that this little one back here is gonna be 1 story, and this one back here is gonna be 1 story. So that charge is high. Well, let me. But it's the same concept. I don't want to keep you guys too long, and this is not cooperating because y'all see me typing it. Yeah, but we would do the same thing. We would grab our high charge and we would drop it based on what, you know, we wouldn't drop it on this one over here because we know this isn't a 2-story. We would drop it everywhere else that's all these 2 stories because we're giving them. Now, only time you give them these charges for high and steep directly is if it is a full replacement. If we were repairing this roof, we would just give them labor because we can't drop it on a slope because we're only repairing individual shingles.
Right.
We can do it this way because we're repairing all these slopes. We're replacing all these slopes. So if we were just repairing, it's hard to tell, you know, you can't calculate per square when you're repairing because it's per shingle. So you would just do RFG and then it would be labor. And then we would give them, you know, 1 hour for high and 1 hour for steep. Okay, so now we're gonna say that we're saying our predominant pitch and some slopes are 2-story and the roof displays, and we're gonna say severe granule loss because when he showed us those photos, he showed us severe granule loss, you know, on each slope, and the roof is older. So it has widespread hail damages throughout all slopes. Inspector marked several hail marks. We reviewed the photos and entered agreed marks into RPF. Based on the direction of the storm, so now this is where we get into making it specific to our claim. So we're gonna say, we don't need to say based on direction of storm. I mean, we need to say based on direction of storm, the slopes that receive the most damage were going to be that front and that back. So based on the direction of the storm, the front and the back slopes sustained most damages and RPF advised replacement, and that is what happened. Our RPF told us to replace those two slopes. So the left and the back slopes sustained, we're not gonna say minor, because in our case they did sustain hail damages and the RPF advised us to repair. Well, we're gonna put repair over 200 plus shingles. So we're saying based on the size of the roof and the wide, we're gonna take this out and make it specific to our claim. So we're saying based on the size of that roof, based on the size, where am I, of the roof, and the individual shingles for repair, equaling more than 200, the replacement would be more cost effective and warranted. We're not gonna say cost effective in this case because they're gonna be the same, but we're gonna say the replacement would be warranted. So we're gonna tell them on the 24 facets, all of them show hail damage. All of them display hail damages, and repair to 6 of 24 facets is more than 75%. So we got that based on how many facets are on the slopes that we're replacing, and then the ones that we're repairing, how many facets. So we applied the applicable depreciation. So since we are replacing this entire roof, we have to depreciate it. So we click right here, and we click on our last item. We hit shift, we hold on shift and click, and it highlights all that. And that's when we go to global changes. And if you wanted to save this macro, you could save it too, you know. But we're gonna go to global changes. Global changes is gonna change something globally, so everything we've chosen. So we're gonna depreciate, we're choosing to change the depreciation, and we wanna depreciate it by the age. So this is the original roof to the home. We're gonna unclick that, and then we're gonna type in 23. And that goes through and depreciates everything that needs depreciation and everything doesn't. So we don't have to go through and try to figure it out. We already know. And now we see that depreciation. Or you can always right click on your roof folder, global changes, same thing. So now we're going through, we're allowing to replace damaged turtle vents, pipe jacks, and exhaust vents. So in our case, we're gonna allow to place damaged turtle vents and pipe jacks. And then we're replacing, we're just install only on non-damaged vents. Oh, I had it right there. I didn't realize that. But we want to go back and let them know that based on roof age and overall condition. So this roof is 23 years old, and it's a it's a laminate that's only has a 30-year lifespan. So it's already almost at the end. That shingle is already at the end of its life expectancy. So we're saying based on roof age and overall condition, and shingle being near the end of its life expectancy, that's why we're replacing it. Whatever. Expectancy, replacement warranted. So we just want to give them as much information as possible on why we're replacing this roof, because that roof processing form did tell us to replace 2 slopes, but it told us to repair the other one. But that repair is for 200 plus shingles, and they're widespread. So right here, the next thing we want to do is fill in. So we're telling them the front slope and the direction is north. And then we will fill this in based on our our Eagle View, our RPF that we already did earlier. And then the facets, and we're telling them how much hail. And then we will fill all this in. So now on our exterior, we're gonna go and we're gonna list all our elevations. And instead of copying it, we're not gonna type all this back out again, because remember, we put this in our coverage template. So we're just gonna go right here and take it from there. And then every time you see that, you could just do A, because that just gives you the letters, basically. I mean the words. You don't need the links or anything like that. So interior, we don't have any interior damage. So we want to make sure to let them know no interior inspection, as there were no damages reported by insurance. So now this is our whole narrative. So this is what's gonna go over here. So remember, we're requesting authority on dwelling based on hail damages. So we're gonna take all this information and we're gonna drop it over there. So this is telling them what type of policy it is, data loss, we confirm the weather, we inspected, we reviewed the virtual packet, and the following damages. And we also want to let them know all damages, I promise I'm typing, are all damages are consistent with weather and sudden and accidental, and appear sudden and accidental. We would if our computer would work right. So that's where we put that. This can get lengthy sometimes, and you can only put a certain amount of characters in here. So remember, I don't think I copied it all the way down also, because we don't have our interior. So see how it's telling me I've exceeded the number of characters. So we would just take this and then probably stop right here and put this in the bottom. And that's why it's cutting it off, because we've already used, the amount of characters. So you may not have to use all these boxes, but it's there if you need it. So it cut it off because we didn't have enough, so we're gonna take it and copy it again. This is saying location of documents. So this is saying in your authority request, where are all your documents backing up everything that you just told us? So they're all in XA, which is exact analysis. Those are those 4 documents that we need to submit this. Have you verified that they signed up? You're just gonna hit yes. Because that verifying just means that you looked over there in NextGen. Remember, when you click their name, it's gonna show you their preferred payment method. But we're gonna try to get everybody to sign up for an electronic form of payment, because we're trying to stay the planet. We don't want to print all these checks, and it just gets messy. It takes time. Electronic form of payment, we can track it. They don't have to wait on anything in the mail. Method of settlement will always be settlement from images, and our transaction reason is always going to be estimate scoping package. Service benefit type is damages. So let's say that this is over $20,000, which it is. Our check payee needs to say policyholder and mortgage company. So you choose policyholder every single time. And then mortgage company, you hold shift and choose them. You hold control and choose them. So let's say it was a PA on the claim and it was over 20. We're gonna do control and then we'll choose that PA as well. Check payee is always who that check is gonna go to. So if they don't have, if it's under 20,000 and it's nobody, it's always just gonna be policyholder. If they have a PA on the claim, you can only issue a check. You cannot issue any type of electronic form of payment with the mortgagee or the PA, because they all have to be listed out on the check. A mortgagee isn't gonna be on their electronic form of payment because they don't share an account. So no matter what, this has to be a check payment because it's over 20 and we have to include the mortgagee. So then we go to tools and we go to payment tracker and we are going to enter in our information directly from payment tracker. So we're requesting coverage. We're requesting payment for our dwelling coverage. You copy it directly from here. You do not need the $. All you need is those commas and those decimals. So you just copy. And then recoverable depreciation. Remember, we depreciated it. Wait, I hit copy. And we take it directly from there. The reason we copy and paste is because a lot of numbers can get misconstrued. If we don't have anything, we don't have to enter 0. So we take our deductible. That one's pretty easy, so I'm just gonna type it in. So now our net amount should match this right here, our estimated ACV and our total payment pending. It does. We always want this, the total off needed is your net amount, always, because you're letting them know, yeah, this is the ACV, but I also need authority for that amount. So you have to enter this number twice. And then we would hit okay, and it will save the file. No, I'm not gonna do it because we need to make sure everything's right on your estimate. And that's it. So our next step would be, what is our next step? If we put in that authority request, we need to go to the chat and let them know that that authority request is in there. So we would go right here. We would type in our claim number, just like this. Claim, state, authority request. Just how we would do CWP and let them know if it's below deductible. Now we're trying to get to your authority request. So today that's what I'm gonna focus on when we finish. But just because it's in the chat, sometimes we won't be able to get to it. But as long as you have that CPT task with that authority request, it'll get pulled. Because either VOT or a TR will pull it or we will. So now you're done. You're done with that claim until your authority comes back. So once you get authority, it's gonna be right here. Well, let me back up. So now that you know what you've requested authority for, you wanna update your reserves. So you go to financials, you hit change. See, this says loss reserve and you hit change. You know you're gonna be making at least a $12,000 something pay, 900, almost 13. You really only need to make your reserves $1 more. So I'm just gonna make it $12,904 since it's 90 cents, and then we're gonna post it. If we had anything on our other structure, we would go ahead and open that coverage because we want to make sure when they go to give us authority that the coverages we need it for are already there. So let's say you got an authority back on this. We are going to go to send forms and correspondence, and we are going to make their payment letter, and that's PROP004. You don't need to do anything else with that. We don't need to click on the state. All we do is type in our letter and hit search. And then we're going to select it. And we always want to select the insured. If this was the PA, again, we need to send it to both of them. And that's their address. And then it goes continue. Days to repair is stating the days they have to repair. In 90% of the state, in 90% of the states, it's 180 days. If we didn't know, I only know that because, prior knowledge. If we didn't know, we hit the policy and we would just search it. We would go to endorsements. This is their whole policy. So we would just Control F and search 180. 180 comes right up. So they know that they have 80 days from the actual cash value payment. So if we were making the payment today, we know it would be 180, and date of settlement is always the day you make the payment. So you may try to call them today and they don't answer. So that's not a date of settlement. The date of settlement is the day you make that payment in financials. And then none of this, if they had that deductible reduction amount, we would click that. So it would give us the extra space. We hit continue, and we're gonna enter those same numbers from our payment tracker into this letter. The letter you double click so it turns gray, and then you can start typing. If you start typing just in the middle, it doesn't take all the way in to get. So you always want to double click in your letter and then Control V. Double click, Control V. So once your steps are going to be initial contact, coverage template. Your coverage template, you should always be reviewing the photos and taking your scope notes, and you've basically written that estimate once in your, you've written it in your scope notes when you're finished with that coverage template. Once you finish the coverage template, you go to your roof processing form, you fill that information in, and it lets you know whether you're gonna repair it, replace it. And if this was repair and it only said 9 or 10 shingles or 12 or 15 on any of these slopes, then we would not replace this whole roof. We're replacing this whole roof because the repair is gonna give us over 200 shingles. That's 135 on one and 90 on the other. Then we actually fill in our estimate items. And then we go to documents. We upload that, we go to reports. We upload all our forms we need, and then we resequence. Before you upload, make sure you run your quality assist tools, referral assignment, because you might need to change something before you upload it. Once you've uploaded everything and you've gotten your quality assist back, then you fill this out. This is your narrative. This is similar to what you put in your coverage template, so you should only have to tweak a few things, but you want to explain why you're doing what you're doing, why you're requesting authority, why you're giving them a full roof, why you're repairing it, whatever. And then you hit okay, and then you pull that chat up and you put your authority request in that chat. And then your next step is going to be just waiting on that authority request to come back. And once it comes back, you make your settlement call. And I'm gonna save this for you so you'll have. And I'll send it to you. And then you're gonna make once you get that authority back, soon as you get authority, I don't care if it's 6 o'clock and you're about to walk out the door, you hit complete. And you inspect it and you mark complete, because this is how you get your closures in Xactimate. When you hit complete in Xactimate, you make sure you hit complete. It's gonna go to upload it and save and exit, because that is how you're gonna get your closures. The next day when your admin says how many did you close and they give you that number, this is how they get it. So you might not be able to make the settlement call, but when you get authority in this, and you guys know your authority is gonna come right here. It's gonna come in your regular CPT task, and it's gonna say authority, authority received. That's why you need to change this current filter to all, because when they give you authority, it's not gonna go on today's date. It's gonna go to tomorrow, so you may not see it. So you always wanna filter it out to all CPT tasks, and that's gonna give you future. But or if you just want to keep, you might just, know, okay, hey, I know I put this in for authority. Let me check. It's been a day. You're coming in the next day. It's going to be right here. It'll say your authority request will be here and the authority approval will be right here, and you can just see it. You'll also have a task that lets you know that you got authority. So you always want to, when you get a new claim, always look at these. Cause review new file, you're doing that when you get the new claim. When you make contact required, you're doing that on your initial contact. You're reviewing the file when you're doing your coverage template. Always look at these. Your tasks are the same thing that comes in your next gen, in your My Work. So these are all those tasks that I just completed would have been right here. And it's gonna show you how many claims you have and all the tasks you have on your claim. But when you get a claim and you open it, just make a habit of clicking that task and completing all those. Cause you're making contact on your initial contact and you're reviewing the file when you're doing your coverage template. So once you see that authority, you go back to your claim process tool and you make your you make your settlement call. And it'll be yellow for you because it comes up once you requested authority. So either the answer is yes and you go through all this and you make your payment and you do your letter, or if it's no, you just hit no. If no, why they didn't answer, attempted to call the insured, which follow up, and it's gonna automatically trigger you another attempt that next day. And that's it.
Okay, so just going back real quick, it said once the